to the Candidates Forum for Newark School Board. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Fremont, Newark, and Union City. I am Ann Crosby, a member of the League and your moderator for this evening. The League of Women Voters promotes political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League is nonpartisan, but we are political. We study issues that have potential governmental solutions and develop consensus positions. Once we have developed a position as an organization, we take action for positive change. However, and this is important, we never support or oppose any political party or candidate. Here are the ground rules. Before this forum, we have collected questions from the League members and the community. Because of time constraints, we may not be able to ask every one of the questions that was submitted. If you are in our audience and want to submit a question, you can do so in the Q&A area on your screen. Though this is not visible to the audience, the candidates can see a timer. Each candidate is allowed 2 minutes to answer each question. If you would like me to repeat a question, just go ahead and ask. Do not feel obligated to use the entire time provided. After the first question, we will direct questions to be varied in order. Since we have 2 candidates with us this evening, it's pretty back and forth. Now let's meet the candidates. The next question will come to Ms. Nguyen. You'll be the first one to answer this question. Can you tell us what your top 3 priorities are for Newark Unified?
My top 3 priorities would be ensuring that we have better communication to parents, collectively rebuilding the trust in the community with the school district, and also making sure that everything is equitable in terms of for all the students, making sure that we are providing equal opportunities for all students in the district to be able to succeed. And lastly, just ensuring that that academics and student priority is our #1 priority.
Thank you. Mr. Zhang, same question.
3 priorities for me: communication,
Yes.
fiscal discipline, and educational equity. Let me first talk about the first one, communication. When I was first appointed to the board members were not very historically visible in our communities. Many of the PTA parents, leaders in the PTA were telling me that they've never seen any board members talking to them, attending their PTAs, listening to their concerns and their comments for the district for many, many years. That's why late last year, I started attending all the PTAs as much as possible in my district to directly listen to the concerns and complaints of the parents and our constituents. And I received so many encouragement from these parents. There was one parent were telling me that he has 2 kids in one elementary school. For the span of 8 years, I was the first one to ever attend a PTA meeting. I was impressed and inspired by the nice comment of the parents, so I intend to continue to do so. And after the lockdown, I plan to bring the entire board to have a rotation schedule to actually attend various PTA sites to listen to our parents. #2, fiscal discipline. 2 years ago, when I first got onto the board, we're headed toward fiscal insolvency. And along with other board members, we made difficult cuts, but necessary cuts. And this year, even under the COVID-19 crisis, we're projecting a budget surplus. And I will continue to hold fiscal responsibility in the district. Lastly, educational equity. The COVID-19 crisis hit our most underserved and underprivileged students the hardest. That's why a month ago, the board authorized up to $800,000 to purchase additional Chromebooks and internet hotspots, so our most underserved students can have the device and internet access necessary for distance learning. And after the lockdown, we'll continue to prioritize our resources to serve our most disadvantaged students population. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will come back to you, Mr. Zhang. In your opinion, what needs to happen for Newark to reopen for in-class instruction?
So obviously everybody knows.
Wait, let's let them reset the clock. I'm sure you have your full 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, now go ahead.
As everybody knows, it's under the state monitoring list. So we cannot legally open the school until that we get off the monitor list for at least 7 days in a row. So after we get off the monitor list, we will continue talking to our parents and our labor partners to devise a safe and effective learning plan to gradually bring our students back to the classroom. That's why tentatively we give people options. Parents who are not comfortable bringing their kids back to the school will be able to enroll in online virtual academy. And for those parents who are essential workers who cannot afford childcare, they can bring their kids back to classroom in a staggered basis. Obviously, we need to have massive testing. We need to have contact tracing. And initially, I thought if this pandemic lasts a little bit longer, maybe the secondary kids will be the first one to be back on campus because they are more mature, they're more disciplined when it comes to enforcing proper social distancing and less congregation. While our elementary kids might be tougher, they might be delayed a bit because some of them just couldn't control themselves and they will hug and kiss our teachers. But overall, we need to think about a long-term strategy because this pandemic can very well last for another 1 or 2 years or maybe even more. So we need to gradually bring back some sense of normality into the district. We might need to adopt and adapt to the new normality, the new normal. So we may do things differently, such as staggered attendance, staggered dismissal, shorter period, only being at school 2 days a week, and on Monday, complete online professional learning. The bottom line is, if the pandemic is going to last longer than we think, I'm not going to let a high school student spend his entire 4 years of high school at home. We got to adapt to some new sense of normality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nguyen, in your opinion, what needs to happen for Newark to reopen for in-class instruction?
I will echo the same sentiments as Mr. Zhang. We do have to abide by state and local health guidelines right now, and that means that before we can go back into schools in the hybrid model, we have to be off the county watch list, and also make sure that we are partnering with our labor partners, meaning the teachers and our staff, to make sure that we have proper safety measures and processes in place in order for them to come back into the classroom. And then also having a staggering schedule for the students and making sure that all the procedures and the protocols are followed accordingly so that we can all be safe. And also make sure that, again, we want to be able to serve and have the kids go back into schools, but we have to make sure that we are following the proper protocols and the state guidelines and the local guidelines. So with that said, if all those are in place, then we can open schools safely, and also just send out communication to parents and making sure, and our families in the community, to make sure that people understand the processes that we must follow, and we have and everybody is comfortable doing so. Thank you.
And if, Ms. Nguyen, can you tell us any suggestions on how to support teachers during this pandemic?
Yes, so we can best support teachers by making sure that our superintendent is in constant contact with them, either through, and the principals on a weekly basis, or to check in and make sure that they have the support that they need. And also from families, I know that they're always watching out for their students' families and checking in with students. But it would be nice for parents to also, in the community, to, instead of sending them an email of concern in regards to their students' performance or whatever, how they can do better, just to ask to check in with them and say, hey, are you guys doing okay? What can we do to help support you during this time? And while we are at home, also trying to figure out how to troubleshoot technical issues with our kids. But they are doing the brunt of it. They are not only trying to teach online, but they're also the technical support for students when their parents aren't around, and making sure that the students are fine. So as parents and members in the community, if we can also reach out, but also ask that staff, the principals and the superintendent and the executive staff over at the district, to make sure that, you know, that they are heard, and that if they have concerns, that to take them seriously. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Zhang, same question.
Yeah, so I actually completely agree with my fellow board member just said. I want to add 3 more points. Number 1, flexibility. Remember, teachers are parents as well. They have kids staying at home as well. So they need to take care of their family. They are also parents as well. So I think we want to give teachers the flexibilities that whether they can choose to stay at home and teach online, teach distance, or if they really want to show up in the classroom, they can choose to do so. But we got to give them the flexibility that they need. Number 2, I want to talk about is support and training. Right now, what we have is we have distance learning. We have some fancy software like Zoom and other Google Meet software. Many of the teachers are not very tech savvy. I think we need to give necessary and enough training so teachers can troubleshoot their problems. In addition, we need to purchase additional Chromebook, because some of the operating systems on some of the Chromebook are 5 years old. They are not suitable for today's Zoom streaming software, because the Zoom streaming software is not just about reading text reading on static text on a website. It's about streaming your voice and your video at the same time. You need to upgrade to a more modern operating system. If necessary, the board will approve additional money to purchase additional Chromebook for the teachers so they have up-to-date devices. Number 3 I want to mention is the practice of tolerance and patience. This is unprecedented times. The board need to go through a lot of things. Everybody else, the superintendent, the staff, the teacher, we're all going through unprecedented times. I just hope we can give each other a little bit more sympathy, a little bit more compassion, and practice more patience and tolerance. Emotions can be high. People are definitely get hit hard in this pandemic. We just hope that as a district, as relationship with our teacher, our staff, and our labor partner, we can all be a little bit nicer and kinder to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will also come back to you. With declining enrollment and lack of funding, Newark Unified has struggled in recent years. What would you do to create stability?
Yeah, that speaks to my past 2 years record of fiscal discipline. When I was first got onto the board, we were headed toward a $2 million plus deficits. We made difficult but necessary decisions. We right-sized our district. We banned out-of-state traveling for conferences even before the lockdown. Our board needs to manually approve every single consulting contract over $100,000. These are the decisions we make. Going forward, so that's why right now in the short term, in this year and the next year, we'll have a budget surplus. But in the long run, dealing with declining enrollment, we do have structural budget deficit that we need to solve and consider. With some of the school operating at 40%, 35% capacity, we're going through and we need a process to reevaluate our real estate footprint and strategy. And that can potentially include merging and consolidating schools. Because you have 2 or more than 2 schools operating at 30, 35% capacity, maybe during a time when we don't have a lot of funding with declining enrollment, it might not make that much fiscal sense to continue operating these schools. And in addition, we're accelerating our process of transitioning to solar. That will save us a lot of PG&E bill. That's why late last year, the board approved a contract to completely transition our energy system to solar within the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Nguyen, if you would like to answer the same question, what do you propose to create stability in Newark Unified?
So I do agree with Member Zhang's assessment of what we are currently trying to do and what we are moving towards. Yes, we do have to consider and move towards right-sizing the district, and that means that we will be having to consider consolidating schools and whether or not it makes sense to be operating at those capacity levels if it's under 50%, and making sure that, you know, that we have proper approvals on contracts for to vendors for improving, you know, any of the schools or any jobs that we need to take a look at and make sure that it fits the criteria and that the board can approve those accordingly. And then lastly, in terms of low enrollment, we do also need to consider how we can bring students into this district. And by doing so, if we try to focus back onto the academics and bring up test scores, we could potentially, you know, bring in additional students and maybe fix the low enrollment issue by having a higher enrollment based on the performance of the district. So if we need to really try and focus on making that happen, and for the betterment of all the students in the district. And then also because of us being able to be a high performing district, that will inevitably, you know, help resolve the issue with low enrollment, because then we would be hopefully more families who are currently in the district that are sending their kids to private school will want to enroll them into the public schools here in Newark. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And this will also go to you. The next question is, what type of programs would you incorporate into the curriculum for those students not interested in going to college or who do not have the financial means to go to college?
We currently have our ROP program with Mission Valley, and I think that if we were to take a look at that and possibly expanding that program, that could help a lot of students who aren't interested in going to college, and potentially having more, you know, developing a trade, even a technical trade, exploring maybe possibly having more coding classes, and then also bridging and building relationships with tech companies that are coming into this area, and maybe expand some or create some internship programs so that these kids have an avenue other than deciding whether or not they have to plan for a career, and in terms of, like, you know, taking the step in higher education and going to college prior to really building a career. So I think that we should definitely look at those programs to expand trade careers. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you so much. Mr. Zhang, I'm going to ask you the same question. What
Yeah,
type of programs would you incorporate?
Yeah, I want to echo the sentiment of my fellow board member. I think trade school is very important for those who do not want to go to college or are not suitable to go to college. Not everyone needs to go to college. We need to invest more in alumni connection, and we need to integrate more with the ROP, Mission Valley ROP. And this is actually very important, because if you look at the past 5 years, you look at the construction workers' wage and salary, their wages has increased by at least 2 to 3x in the past 5 years. So if you are a construction worker, if you are an electrician, if you are a plumber, you're going to make a very decent living in the future. And get back to my point about the economy in the future. In a tech-driven economy, only two kinds of people will have jobs. Number one is those that can leverage technology at their job. Number two are those people whose job cannot be replaced by robots. Fixing air conditioner, being a plumber, being an electrician, being a construction worker. These are kind of the job that will never be replaced by an AI agent or general purpose robots. We need to invest in these trade schools. And if you look around, this new generation in America, this is not a very hands-on generation. They're missing a lot of these decent paying wage jobs that they can take advantage of. That's why I think going forward, we got to increase more program with alumni connection, and we got to invest more and partner more with Mission ROP to encourage our students to learn a trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is actually going to be our final question. It came from the audience, and then you will have 2 minutes to give a final statement. But we're going to start with you, Mr. Zhang. Do you support Prop 15, which is also known as the Schools and Community First?
So as a board, several months ago, as a board, we approved supporting that before the COVID-19. But right now we're at this time, after I dig more into the proposition, I realize I can no longer support this proposition because there are so many flaws in the proposition. Number one, I'm not sure whether it's a good idea to raise anybody's taxes during an economic depression. Number two, the taxing scheme in Prop 15 is not very equitable because this is a tax on the real estate in the most expensive region in the state, namely Los Angeles, San Diego, and Bay Area, and give it to everybody else, like somebody living in Jefferson County or like Bakersfield or Fresno. So I think there is no provision in Prop 15 that says the additional money will be allocated to local district based on the cost of living. And number three, yes, we have exemption for small business, but one thing that we need to realize is all these bars, restaurants, and small business located on Lion City Center, Rosemont Shopping Center, or Little Fair Shopping Center, these are located on corporate-owned lands. If we reassess these corporate-owned lands, I mean, what do you think will happen to the rents paid by these tenants, like restaurant owners and bar owners? I mean, under COVID-19, our small businesses are already hit really hard. We don't need to make their life more miserable. They might just go under if we do this. And number four, this is an issue that's rarely discussed. Prop 15 is introducing an administrative and legal nightmare. We have 500 unit plus of commercial property in Alameda County. I don't know how many assessors the county assessor office got to hire to assess these property, maybe 400, 500 of them. And let's not pretend that the lawyers at Facebook, Google, or Tesla will just say, hey, you think this building is 10 million? I agree with you. They will take you to the court. They will sue you in the court if they have a disagreement on the valuation. So this is impractical to implement, creating a legal nightmare. That's why over these reasons, I can no longer support this proposition.
Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Nguyen, can you tell us if you support Prop 15, the Schools and Community First ballot measure?
So like Member Zhang had said, and I'm not quite as passionate as him in his response, but I do appreciate it because yes, initially when we were looking at it, we did approve and would want to approve that. But now that we're looking, and that is prior COVID, but now that we're in COVID and with all of the stuff that's going on in terms of the economy and the points that Member Zhang had said that, you know, there's no guarantees that it is going to be going to any local entities, especially school district. So with that said, I would also have to say that I do no longer support that also.
Okay, with that, thank you. We're going to give each of you 2 minutes to make a closing statement, anything you'd like the public to know. You have the floor.
So I just want to first say thank you for having me, but I do want to apologize. I know I seem unprepared. I wasn't, this week has been very busy for me. We've had a couple of issues at work, so I was not prepared for this today, but I'm glad that I did join and got to interact with everyone. And but first and foremost, I am a parent in the district, and I do have a vested interest to make sure that, you know, not only my children are getting the proper education through our public school systems, but I'm also a big believer in the public school system. And I believe that public schools do produce amazing individuals, talented professionals, and also leaders of tomorrow. So I just would like to continue to represent the Newark School District if possible. And it would be a great privilege for me to be able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for being able to come on. I know there was some communication trouble, so that was not all on you, and it is sort of thrown in the deep end, but we really appreciate you participating. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zhang, I have the same question for you. You have 2 minutes. What would you like the community to know?
Thank you for the League of Women Voters for this forum for me to discuss my candidacy with my constituents. This is unprecedented times. People are feeling hurt. Our economy is in shambles in our community. There are concerns for physical and economic health across the kitchen table in our families. Unprecedented times require stability, continuity, and steady leadership. We need a uniter that can do the actual governing rather than a bomb thrower that just wants to burn and destroy. This is exactly what I have demonstrated in the past 2 years. From making the difficult but necessary decision to reduce our budget deficit, putting our district onto a fiscally sustainable path, to visiting our PTA to directly listen to the complaints and concerns of our parents, our constituents. Going forward, I will continue to do that in the next 4 years. That's why I'm asking for another 4 years from our people. After the pandemic, we need to look a little bit further. We need to look to the future of the economy and how we educate our kids to prepare for the economy of the future. I come from Silicon Valley. In the past 10 years, I've seen the excellence and the prosperity of the tech industry every day right in front of my eyes. Unfortunately, this prosperity is largely irrelevant to the graduate of this district. I hope the kids in this district can grow up and take advantage of the job opportunities in the Silicon Valley like I'm so blessed to be able to take. My professional background gave me the unique perspective to understand what should be done to help our students succeed in the future. And in the next 4 years, I hope to bring Newark District not to the left, not to the right, but move forward directly into the future. Newark, let's seize this opportunity. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank each of the candidates for your participation tonight and for your willingness to run for office and serve the community. We want to be sure that all voters know about our Voters Edge website. It is a comprehensive, nonpartisan online guide to elections covering federal, state, and local races in California. Go to votersedge.org/CA. You can get a personalized ballot that lists all of the candidates and issues you will be asked to decide about, along with links to information about each. You can even check your polling location and create a cheat sheet of your choices to take along with you when you vote. Remember, if you're voting by mail, to sign the back of the envelope. Remind your family and friends to vote on November 3rd. Thank you.